We understand things on the basis of logic. We do not know whether our logic is correct, but we assume it to be so, and we are comfortable with it. It could be wrong. Our assumption involves a leap of faith. So, spirituality says that we are making a different assumption. I will like to relate two important assumptions that give us a general understanding of the spiritual realm. The first assumption is about the nature of the self. Who am I? Now, according to known scientific theories, we are nothing except the combination of atoms and molecules. What then is the basis of consciousness? Is it merely a complex structure of atoms and molecules? What then is the self? Is the self the basis of consciousness arising from mere combination of atoms and molecules, as present modern science has us to believe? One ex-Nobel Prize winner, Albert Georgi, says, in my search for the basis of life, in my search for the basis of consciousness, I ended up with atoms and molecules. Somewhere along the line, life slipped out of my hands. Now, in my old age, I am tracing my steps backward. Spirituality says that there is the self is beyond atoms and molecules. There is something which is giving us that identity which we call I. Another famous scientist is Erwin Schrödinger. You've all heard of his theory. So Schrödinger also has something very wonderful to say about this, which I happened to read. He said that my body, the cells of my body, work in accordance with the laws of nature. And yet I know that I control the cells of my body, foreseeing the effects and taking responsibility for the actions. So he said that it seems these two statements can only be reconciled if there is an I separate from these atoms and molecules, which is guiding their motion in accordance with the laws of nature. Another scientist called Thomas Huxley, he said, if you were to ask scientists whether they believe in religion or spirituality, invariably they would say they do not believe. And if you were to ask them, do you possess a free will? They would say, yes, we do. Intuitively, we all know we do possess a free will. Yet, in the laws of nature known to us today, there is no scope for free will. Yet, all scientists do realize that we do possess the freedom to choose this or that. Spirituality gives us a different level of understanding of the self. Now, this self, although it has been recognized in spiritual traditions around the world, and I respect all of them, still in this lecture I am speaking from the Vedic viewpoint. So the Vedas say that all that exists is different kinds of energies. Tasmad va etasmad atmana akasha sambhuta akashad vayor vayor agni agnerapa adabhya prithvi prithivyaushodaya aushadhibhyonnam annat purusha savayesha purushonnara samaya. The Vedas say that there was one primordial energy, which it has the nomenclature given there is Prakriti. This unfolded at the time of creation into the next form, which is called Mahan, another primordial form of energy. This folded into the next form, which is called ahankar, which unfolded further into five forms called the Panchatan Matra, and from there it makes sense to us. The next form of the energy was space. From space came the next form of the energy, which was air. The next form was fire. The next form was water. And the next form was the earth. So here we have the unified field theory being presented 5,000 years ago, where Einstein's theory seems so infantile in comparison. E is equal to mc square. Here the Vedas say everything is one energy unfolding. However, that is not the only energy form that exists. All these are material energies. Beyond this is a spiritual energy form. And the self is a part of that spiritual energy form. In various religious traditions, it has been called the soul, the spirit, the Atman, the Jeev. This soul is a higher level of energy, which we can classify as divine energy or spiritual energy. What is the difference between these two kinds of energies? All the material energies are devoid of the property of consciousness, and the spiritual energy form possesses consciousness. So wherever you detect consciousness, that indicates the presence of the soul, the higher spiritual energy form. Otherwise, our material instruments cannot reach that, because they are restricted to the realm of the material energy. However, it can be detected by its symptom, which is consciousness. As long as the soul is present in the body, this body possesses that quality of consciousness, every aspect of it. If I were to prick a thorn into somebody's finger, the person would cry, "Ah, what happened? I'm experiencing pain." So there is consciousness there. That consciousness is the indication of the presence of the soul. Once the soul has left, the body is again dead matter in a couple of minutes. Now, the hands, feet, all the cells, molecules, everything is there, but there is no longer any life present. So, the science of spirituality tells us that understand your real nature. You are not merely a huge set of atoms and molecules. You are a divine being. Swami Vivekananda, the first Swamiji to come from India to USA over 100 years ago, he had stated this. He said, "Thou art not bodies, thou art not matter. Thou art souls immortal, spirits blessed, free and eternal. Matter is your servant, and not you the servant of matter." So this is the first assumption of spiritual science, which is common to all the spiritual traditions of the world, the nature of the self. Now, there's a second assumption also that is made in many of the religious traditions. And again, I would explain this from the Vedic perspective. The second assumption is that this entire world has been created by an all-powerful, all-knowing creator, whom we could call God, or we could call Bhagavan. Somebody may argue, well, why is that assumption made? It does not seem logical to me. I would rather assume there is no God and develop my field of science accordingly. Well, it seems if we ponder over it deeply, it seems equally logical and commonsensical, if not more, to assume that there is an intelligent creator. That has been the viewpoint of many great scientists. Newton himself, he said, this most beautiful system of sun and stars, planets and comets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an all-powerful, all-intelligent being. The great Einstein, he said, try and penetrate the secrets of nature, and you will find that behind all the discerning concatenations, there remains something inconceivable, subtle, and intangible. Veneration for that force behind anything we know is my religion. So, spirituality makes this assumption, or let us say it is based on this foundation, that this creation has come about through the counsel and dominion of an all-intelligent being. Consider any object for that matter. I am speaking to you through this microphone. How was this microphone created? Somebody could say, Swamiji, the microphone was created through this treated metal and certain silicon chips, certain wires, plastics, various metals and elements. Really? Supposing I give you all these elements that have gone into a microphone, will you be able to make it? No, I'm sorry, I cannot. Why? Well, the raw material is required, but also the machines to make it are required. You need the foundry shop to give it the basic shape, the lathe machine to finish it off, and the various other factories. All right. So now to make a simple microphone, you need two things, the materials and the machines. Supposing we have both, will the microphone be made? Why not? There is no operator to operate those machines. You need the lathe-man, the machine man, the person in the foundry shop. So you need somebody operating the machines. Now supposing we have an operator, that is still not a sufficient condition to make it. As the gentleman volunteered, if that machinist doesn't have the wisdom, his knowledge level is not high enough, he is still an apprentice, this part will still not be made. So you have the material, the machines, the person operating the machines. The person must also possess the knowledge to make it. You have 6 factors in making an ordinary little microphone. Supposing that person possesses the wisdom, now will it be made? Not necessarily. Walk into the microphone factory and tell them, are you making microphones today? No, right now we are having a lockout. There's a lockout going on between the labor, the workers and the management. So we know how to make it, but we have no desire to make it. Without the desire, the object was still not made. What if the desire exists? Will it now be made? Well, one person went for a holy bath in the river Ganges from the Silicon Valley. He accompanied me. So we reached the holy place called Prayag. We took off the clothes there, put on a towel. I stepped into the Ganges and I asked him, please come. He said, no, What's the matter? You don't wish to bathe? Of course, I wish to bathe. Then why aren't you coming in? The water is so cold. He has a desire, but he is not making the resolve. That brings in another factor. After the resolve is the effort. So many things go into making an ordinary microphone. Janya bhaved ichha hi, ichha janya bhaved kriti, kriti janya bhaved cheshta, cheshta janya kriyochyate. The Nyaya Darshan, a scripture on logic, states that to make any object, these 6 things are vital. If we say this world has been created by itself automatically through nature, nature must possess these 6 attributes: knowledge, desire, endeavor, resolve. And if you say nature possesses these 6 attributes, what we call God is what you are calling nature. And if you say that nature is devoid of these attributes, then there is need for the all-powerful personality to create this world. When a little microphone like this requires a creator, what about the whole creation by itself? Is it more logical and commonsensical to assume that this was created by an explosion, or is it more logical to assume that it was created with an intellect? There was once a geography teacher. He taught his school students that this world got created automatically by a big bang, uncontrolled explosion, which resulted in matter flying out and then cooling down to create this world. In other words, we all are nothing but star dust. And he gave homework to the students. Please make a map of the planet Earth and bring it. Students endeavored in their own way, copying it from different atlases, free sketching it to the best of their abilities and imagination. One student was of a little philosophic bend. He took a scrap of paper, he scribbled some lines in it, threw some colors there, and the next day when the students were submitting their assignments, he slipped his assignment into the pile on the teacher's desk. The teacher came to class. One by one, he began evaluating these assignments, marking them. 6 on 10, 7 on 10, 5 on 10, 9 on 10, until he came to that scrap. He got infuriated. "Who has made this?" he shouted. The whole class was silent. He said it again. "Come on, tell me, whose handiwork is this?" Everybody was still quiet. He said, "If you do not own up for this, I will punish the whole class." Now that boy got up. He said, "Sir, in my opinion, nobody has made it." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I think the paper flew and came onto your desk. The pencil flew and lines got scratched. The colors flew and filled up there. That is how this has come about." The teacher said, "What rubbish are you talking? This has been made by itself. Definitely somebody has made it. And I suspect you are the person who has made it." The boy said, "Sir, you are not willing to believe that a small map of the planet Earth in a terrible form could be made by itself. And you want us to believe that the real thing, consisting not only of the planet Earth, but so many such planets, has been made by itself. If this requires a creator, doesn't the real thing require an even more powerful and intelligent creator? That has been the conclusion of many scientists. Unfortunately, their views are not reflected in the body of science. Professor Arber, a Nobel Prize winner in physics, I happened to read his statement as well. He said even the most primitive of cells requires the combination of several hundred micromolecules. How all these came together remains a mystery to me. The existence of a creator, of God, seems a logical explanation for this. Last year, as I was traveling through America, somebody gave me a book. So people keep giving these books, and I like to read them to see if any knowledge catches my fancy. This book was written by Francis Collins. He was an American scientist who headed the first human genome experiment. So this was an international team of scientists that got together to decode the human DNA that exists in each of our cells. They took many years to do it, and finally, when it was decoded for the first time, Francis Collins, who works for the National Institute of Health at present, he wrote this book, The Language of God. In that, he states that the DNA is so complex, it contains so much of information. If that information were written down on A4 size sheets, those sheets would keep piling up till the height of the Washington Monument. And if somebody began reading it at the rate of 3 letters per second, that person would continue reading it for the next 31 years. Somebody also volunteered this information. I have not verified it, but he said that the DNA, if it was straightened out, it would go twice to the sun and come back. Now, such complexity exists in creation. Spirituality says that this world is not a random creation of an uncontrolled explosion. It has been created under the direction of that divine intellect. Now, the understanding of the absolute truth is very simple. The absolute truth is the cause of all causes, that from which everything has emanated. The causeless first cause. The causeless first cause. Hegel was perplexed by this. Hegel said, this present moment is the effect and the previous moment is the cause. So the previous moment has caused this moment. But the previous moment was the effect and the moment before that was the cause. So we have a chain of cause and effect which you can pull back. Now as you keep pulling this chain back, either you continue pulling till minus infinity, which doesn't make sense. It must have started somewhere. So wherever it started, there's a singularity at that point. You have a moment which was the cause of the next moment, but it had no cause for itself. So merely out of logic, Hegel concluded that there must be a causeless first cause. The Brahma Samhita says, Ishvaraha Paramaha Krishnaha Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. The Supreme Creator is the cause of all causes. That is the absolute truth. And now we get a basis for ethics and morality as well. That Supreme Creator possesses innumerable attributes. And one of those attributes is his divine virtues, which we call the goodness of God, divine qualities, which all of us respect and are naturally drawn towards. All of us are drawn towards truthfulness. We all naturally like justice, kindness, compassion. Nobody can ever love falsehood. You may say, Swamiji, what do you mean by saying nobody can ever love falsehood? There is so much of falsity that exists in the world. There are so many people that say lies. They may be saying lies, but the person who says lies, if you lie to him, will he like it? He will object. Gang leader. The gang leader says, you lied to me. That gang leader also expects others to behave truthfully to him. From others, we want truthful behavior. We want behavior based on kindness and justice. We may cheat, but nobody should cheat with me. One thief, he stole from a house and came back home with that booty. He counted it with great delight. I've got so much today. And with great satisfaction, he went off to sleep. As luck would have it, at night, a thief entered his house. And he stole from there. The first thief, when he woke up and he found out there's been a theft in my house, he was furious. Who is this? Doesn't he know who I am? If I find him, I'll not leave him alive. I'll break his teeth. I'll break his head. Why are you getting so angry? You are a thief yourself. You should be happy your party has doubled. Earlier there was only one thief in the locality. Now there are two. No, I may steal from others, but nobody should steal from me. You see, internally, all of us, from others, we want behavior based on these divine qualities, based on virtues. Go to a jail and speak to these convicts sometime. Have any of you gone to jail? I have gone many times to give lectures, not to get admitted. So, there I have seen always, in Indian jails, I have never visited American jails, they all have this intrinsic goodness in them, whatever crime they may have committed. And if you speak to them about the wonderful, inspiring qualities of truthfulness in such and such historical personality in an Indian history and such personalities, renunciation, etc., they all become inspired. It shows that all of us naturally love these divine qualities. What is the reason for this? Spirituality informs us these are the qualities of that Creator. They are the virtues of God. And our soul is a tiny part of that Almighty God. Just like a drop of water is a tiny part of the ocean, like a ray of light is a tiny part of the sun, we are all tiny parts of the Supreme Creator. The Bhagavad Gita again mentions this. Mamaivansho jivaloke jivabhutas sanatanaha. It states, all living beings in existence are tiny parts of God. And it is the nature of each part to be naturally drawn to whatever it's a part of, the source. That is nature. That is the gravitational force that Newton discovered. When the apple fell on his head, he was the first one to think, why is the apple falling down? And he stumbled across the law of gravitation. The earth is pulling its tiny part. Similarly, we are all tiny parts of God, and He is pulling us to Him. That pull is experienced in this attraction towards His natural qualities. So all of us, irrespective of cultures, irrespective of places, we are naturally drawn to, we respect these divine qualities, and that gives us an absolute basis for ethics, for morality. Similarly, this urge for knowledge also gets explained. We all, I mentioned, have an intrinsic urge to know, to seek knowledge, which is very basic to our being. Why is this urge coming within all of us? It is again stemming from our Creator God. He is not only all-powerful, He is all-knowing. The word in Sanskrit is sarvagya, omniscient in English. The Vedas say, yes, sarvagya sarvavidyasya jnanamayan tapah. That Supreme Lord is all-knowing. Sri Krishna proclaims this, Vedaham samatitani vartamanani charjana bhavishyani cha bhutani mam tu vedana kaschana. He says, Arjun, the Supreme Lord knows the entire past. He knows the present and He knows the future. He is all-knowing. And we tiny souls are fragmental parts of that omniscient God. Hence, this urge within us to become all-knowing like our Creator. We may not be able to reach there at present, but that urge for knowledge exists. And similarly, this quest for happiness also exists for the same reason. That Lord is not only all-powerful and all-knowing and all-virtuous, He is an ocean of infinite bliss. So we are all tiny parts of that ocean of divine bliss. That is why we have this natural desire to be happy.